welcome everybody to our very first Alberta Carriage Supply Draft Chat.
I'm Kerry Bailey, and I've been in horses since 1983 when I moved to Alberta. That's when I met Dale. And he had
Quick question. How many years is that?
It's almost 40.
Instead of 99, what do I think?
But who's counting, right? Yeah. He had the enthusiasm.
Instead of the 99.
I had the enthusiasm, so it's been like gas on fire for 40 years.
I'm Dale Beefus. Kind of what he says, and we've been building wheels, driving horses, doing restorations, farm with horses. So,
yep. And of course, when you're hooking up to stuff, it's all how old, and that usually winds up things. So we started Alberta Carriage Supply, started by building wheels, and then kind of moved on from there.
So we come up with this idea to have this draft chat, and we expected we'd maybe have 30 people if we were lucky, and we've got well over 100 people. So I'm going to ask for your patience and forgiveness as we move through this, because this is our first time. So we've had to increase and do everything, and so we're hoping it's going to work.
So we're going to record this tonight. We'll be posting it on the website for anybody that wants to see it. So make sure you go to our website, www.albertacarriagesupply.net, and just go to the bottom of any page and subscribe.
And what's the other to subscribing?
Well, you get first kick at the next chat.
Yep, next chat. Any specials we put on goes through there. Any special events you can attend, and that is also there. So it pays to subscribe. And our whole point tonight was just to build community, connect draft horse people from around the world, and maybe explore new ways of doing things, because there's more than one way of doing it, right?
Yeah.
And I need to add that tonight is brought to us by the letter R. Letter R for Rupert's Whiskey. So if you're not enjoying one, you should be.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's a paid commercial or not, but it is from our friends at Eau Claire Distillery. So it's a good whiskey.
So we do have an agenda, but we hope this discussion will be driven by questions. So please ask questions in the chat and make sure that you start them with a hashtag or the number sign so that Roz will be able to spot them and pass them on to us.
That was going to be the pounds.
Same.
Well, yeah, okay. Our agenda, we want to talk about winter feeding, foot care, harness, of course, that's near and dear to our hearts, collars, pads, hames, going to the backcountry, and opportunities to do things with your horses.
So if we don't have time for all, and if you put it all into the chats, we'll make sure that in the next ones we cover those topics. And if we get a bunch of questions in one area, we'll maybe bring in some experts, and I'm sure Lynn Miller would be happy to join us on a chat like this. Mm-hmm. Or we have veterinarians and foot care specialists and all that we bring in and maybe narrow down the gap on the next chat. So please put in the questions. We truly want this to be a question-driven chat, and we'll take her from there.
So on the subject of winter feeding, I'm sure everybody has doing it. With our guys, we have 6 horses, 4 draft, 2 saddle horses. 3 of them are alpha, and it can be a real challenge to make sure the guys on the lower part of the pecking order get their feed, especially Gino, because he's he's getting on in years.
Yep.
So,
And with that cold blast we had in December, that's where it really becomes tough. So Geronimo's a saddle horse. He's got to be in that 26, 28-year range kind of thing. And he was getting as much feed as he could handle. He had a nice full belly, but his ribs looked like a xylophone, like he just couldn't process it enough. So we were having to put him in the barn and give him extra grain and lots of oil, anything we can do to jam calories through to keep him going.
yeah,
Now that it's warmed up, you can see the weight's coming back on him again. But that extreme cold over that period was tough.
yeah, condition is important. And I always see a lot of horses in the field with blankets on. We use, if we get a cold blast, or if we get a rain and then that's followed by a cold blast, we'll bring them into the barn overnight, give them some hay to eat, and good roughage will help them build body heat.
Yeah, from what I understand, I mean, we typically do less with our horses in the wintertime. You don't want to be giving them this huge amounts of feed and it start to get fat because they're not being used. So, if it makes any sense, giving them a lower quality of feed, like with less protein in it, but more of it, lets them stay warm. The digestion is what keeps them warm. They have a small digestive system, kind of like a mouse. They need to almost be eating all the time. So putting that through them all the time is what keeps them warm. So not a high alfalfa or something, but just a straight grass hay. And then how do you check the condition? It just feel their ribs, like just run your hand along.
Can you up your volume because they're having trouble hearing you.
Turned mine up too,
Okay.
so it should be better.
We can move this up front here a bit. Right in front of our rubrics, which is extreme. Is that better? Can anybody hear us now?
No, it's still pretty quiet.
Interesting.
I've got my
Technical
speaker.
man, is there a bump?
It's only on this one. I might be able to turn it up in the camera. I might. Though.
Okay,
Oh, apparently not. Okay,
Bear
sweet.
with us.
so we don't, volume should go up.
And the beeping when new participants want to join is extremely loud.
Oh, is it? Okay. Thank you.
Are we able to turn off the notifications?
I'm looking for that.
Loud. Oh, yeah, the beeping is it.
Mhm.
Okay, so if we're going, so just on the blanket thing,
It's
horses have this amazing ability. They can handle cold better than they can handle warm. And they can actually louver their hair and stand it up. So you put a blanket on them and it pulls their hair down. So sometimes it makes them colder. So if your horse is wet and it's windy, yeah, you need a blanket on because they can't fight that. But in typical weather, as long as they can get out of the wind and they're perfect. Makes us feel better seeing them. But doesn't necessarily make them feel better. Ross, do we have any questions yet?
Nope.
Give me a long hour, people.
Brad asks, my horses eat bark from poplar trees. Is this normal?
Yeah, if you bought your hay from somebody good. Yeah, some of them just chew. Our poplar trees all get eaten down too by it. There's a sweetness to it that they seem to like.
Poplars and caragannals.
Poplars and caragannals. Okay. Flip the page, Hannah. So these are subjects that we bring up to raise questions, and one of them with draft horses is foot care and finding a farrier to do it. There's lots of farriers out there, and they're all, oh yeah, and then you find out you have draft horses in there. Oh yeah, I don't do draft, or I'm busy, or whatever. So it's tough, and then to find somebody good who does it is another toughness on top of that. But you just have to look and find it. We used to shoe them ourselves and trim, but age keeps up with you, and then it takes you longer to recover from the shoeing. So now we've gone through. Doesn't sound right. It's just we've been around a long time. So as farriers get older, they retire or quit or move on or find some different things. So if you have a farrier in your area, or if you're a farrier and you're looking for business or whatever, if you let us know, we'll start to post it on our website and look after you. So you can just send us in your information and away we go. One of the big questions is to shoe or not to shoe your horses. And it's controversial in a little bit, but we used to have a fellow come to our beginner driving clinics who was a farrier and a blacksmith, so obviously we should. And he said, and I believe a horse's foot is better without a shoe. But there are times you need to shoe, and there's really three of them. And one of them is you shoe for protection, you shoe for traction, or you shoe for correction. And that all makes sense. When I was in Australia, they had a stagecoach that went around this old town, and it was a very sandy ground. And they would go through a set of 5/8 plates for shoes in a matter of a couple of weeks. Like it was such a grit that it would wear it off. And there's no foot that can stand up and be hard as steel in my mind. So that's where it is. And there's some people that believe in barefoot shoeing and that, and that's all fine. Like there's parts of it I think make perfect sense. Oh, I got a hand.
Do you know anyone who uses the hoof boots for driving horses?
Typically, it's barefoot shoers that use that. And I've seen it on saddle horses in backcountry, and they work quite fine. It's harder to find them in larger sizes. So we did look, because there's times where we only shoe because we're going into really rocky terrain and stuff, and a boot would be a nice, easy fix, for a weekend as opposed to putting on a set of shoes.
Yeah, like typically we shoe our horses around the beginning of June, and then we do a reset first part of August, and then take them off first part of October. So yes, we do shoe, but they're not on all year round. They're barefoot over the winter.
Yeah, and finding a boot in a size 8 draft is not easy. We have looked. So if you do find some, let us know, please, and we'd be happy to give them a go. Okay, and the last piece I'll put on that at the Alberta Equestrian Federation conference in Red Deer a few years ago, there was a Dr. Steve O'Grady, and he got asked numerous times about barefoot shoeing and shoeing, and which one. And he's not only a veterinarian, but he's also a farrier. And he said the only way to test and see which works is to use the same horse. You shoe a front and a back, and then you barefoot trim the other side and let it go. He said nobody has taken his challenge up, so that's where it sits. And the man was extremely impressive, so I'm going to follow along with what he had to say. So shoe if necessary, but not necessarily shoes.
So we'll delve into harness now, something near and dear to my heart. And of course, we're into the wonderful world of harness vernacular. Basically, the terminology for the parts of harness is regional, and it will vary from discipline to discipline. It's not really necessary to know what it's called, but know what it does. And then you have different materials. Leather, of course, since day one. and then now bioplastic, and then nylon webbing. We've had leather. The disadvantage, well, one of the advantages of leather is that it has a memory. So when you throw the harness on your horse, everything just kind of falls in place. But it is high maintenance. And of course, on our leather harness, we had brass, which is high maintenance again. And then when we started running out of friends to talk into, and went to, like, we used to get our wives to come over and help us. They came once.
You know, we could only trick them once. He said, "Oh, honey, why don't you come over and we'll clean harness together and have a whiskey or a glass of wine or whatever."
Yeah.
That worked once. And then we tricked our friends one time with some beer.
Yeah,
"Come on over, we're drinking beer and we'll polish up harness."
yeah,
That happened once.
yeah. We weren't very good at the Tom Sawyer thing.
No, we never made money doing it. And it was, and I was the last one. Like I like leather. I like the way it feels, just everything about it, except the weight.
Yeah.
And the maintenance on it. It's just
And the cost.
And the cost.
You know?
So we use Biothane, because sometimes I see the nylon will pull hair a little bit, you know, as it expands and contracts, it'll grab and pull hair sometimes on it. And the Biothane is just as strong. Terry takes it to the car wash,
Yeah.
gives it a blast, and it comes out looking like new.
Yeah.
And the only thing to watch for is that you have stainless steel fittings throughout the whole thing.
Because if you get chrome will rust and fit. So you can have this really nice set of harness, but no stainless steel. Pretty soon it's not going to look so good.
In our world, in our world of, you know, in the harness, there's different words now.
Yeah.
And Terry and I were having this spat one time over plow handles and scuffler handles. And it was back and forth. Yes, we do. No, we don't. Yes, we do. No, we don't. So we went out and we had to point to them. See, we have plow handles. No, those are scuffler handles. And we looked in 3 different catalogs and they had different names to them all. So that's why it's important to take a picture if you want something, or know what it does, as opposed to just going by a name that's local. So,
Yeah.
yes, Ross, next
We have
question.
2 questions.
2 questions.
If you're just driving a small amount of time, do or should the horse be shod? The mare will be driven on grass or in the field.
I wouldn't bother. I think you'd be just as well off unshod.
And a random question, not on draft horse. Any advice on wanting to use a Shetland pony to pull a small tiller to till the garden? And it's still hard to hear. So speak up, please.
Sitting down and off like this?
Yeah.
Yeah. So any animal can pull. It's just a matter of how you know, get them used to it and introduce it to them slowly and easily.
And his condition.
Or it's convenient.
And the size of the implement.
And I'm going 100% by memory, but I believe Shetland pony was actually the draft house. We used them in mines because they were a smaller and stockier animal. So, you know, doing small tillage equipment, you know, it's good.
Ooh, this is a good one. Can you demonstrate how to attach a Scotch top to a collar or a hame?
I think we have one out there. Yeah. Should I go get it? Sure. Okay, I'm gonna disappear for a minute.
Okay. I'll talk about collars.
You entertain them with collars and I'll be back with the Scotch top.
Okay. So collars, there's different qualities. You can get collars with full grain leather, which is the best. There's top grain, which is kind of like a half hide. The full grain will stand up better and last longer. One thing you do want is like a long straw collar versus a foam filled collar. And the long straw, it's not like it's a piece this long, it's shorter pieces, but it's the correct term for it is tangled straw. And then we use adjustable collars on our horses, and they adjust over 3 sizes, and that comes in handy because not like at this time of the year, we're not doing much. They tend to bulk up, so you can stretch them out a bit. And then in the spring, when you're back in the field working and they start to lose weight, you can downsize them. Another part of that is pads. Back in the day, the deer hair pad, which is like that pad with blue and white or blue and black striping, that was the pad that was normally used. Nowadays, we use what's called a healing pad, and it's a foam inside with vinyl on the outside, and it actually works like a neoprene saddle pad, and it rides on a layer of perspiration. So if you have a horse that has a sore, you can actually put a healing pad in, continue to use them, and it will heal up as he's going.
Yeah. We were down in Ohio visiting our Amish friends, and one of them handed me a healing pad, and he says, "Do you know what this is?" And I'm looking at it, my inside voice, I'm going, "It's a cheap piece of shit." He says, "It's a healing pad." And then I'm watching, and all of them, that's all they use down there. And those are horses that actually work for a living. Like, it's not weekend warriors like we are. And yeah, he said it's, and we use it now. And you know, I believe that I can, as they're working and sweating, it's all running out. Nothing is staying inside there. And you feel the collars or their shoulders after, and the heat just isn't in there. So it works, I believe, and they work really well. And that's all we use now.
Yep, and just hand me one.
While you're doing that, do you have plow handles in stock?
Yeah.
So we can go back to the question on Scotch tops.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So ours is an add-on Scotch top. You can buy collars where they are part of the collar, and then you just take the collar off and do it. Ours add on. So they're like this, and they can go on pretty much any collar. So you have to actually put the hames in front of the collar. So you kind of harness them up and then just push the hames in front of the collar. You put the Scotch top on. It fits in the groove where the hames go. And then this little tab in front, you move the hames back up on top of it, and that's what keeps it taut. And they actually, besides looking good, they actually served a purpose. And the whole point was it kept dirt and chaff and stuff from getting underneath and bothering the horse like on the collar. So it was kind of a deflector pad is what it was. And then they added these chrome doodads and stuff. This one, of course, is brass, but that was to ward off evil spirits is where that all came from. So they were all religious symbols to begin with.
So once you get it on, you just do the strap up.
Can you lift it up a little bit? Yeah, thank you.
You just do the strap up on the bottom, and then your hames fit in on top.
Seemed to like that. Next question, Roz?
Are healing pads okay in the winter?
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
When you're buying them, you want to make sure you buy a pad that's pleated on the top, because that lets the bottom stay smooth. That's against the horse. So it's just more comfort for your horse.
What should be the distance between the cart and the horse's back end?
Should be about 15 inches between the back of the horse and the whiffle tree.
Right. Is there anybody, and I think this is amongst the the participants as well. Is there anybody using horses for more than just a hobby? What type of acreage of crops or hay are you able to accomplish with a team? And do you have any idea what is reasonable to accomplish?
So if you have a well-broke team, and I say well-broke, but a well-conditioned team, you can get, if you got five acres plowed in a day, you would be doing extremely well. Like that's starting early, giving them a break at lunchtime and then finishing up in the afternoon. So, you know, as you add horses, you can get a lot more done.
Yeah.
We farm typically about 10 acres worth of grain.
Yeah.
And either we cultivate it or we plow it, we seed it in. And you know, horsepower is one piece of it, but manpower is the other piece of it. Like it was extremely labor intensive. And even this, when we do thrashings and stuff like that, it takes a lot of people to do it. And one of the, you know, some of the Lynn Miller books would be, you know, like the workhorse handbook, and that would be a good indication on that. And I don't know, Roz, are you getting other people that are replying to that?
No, you keep going.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, he's actually got 3 books. Workhorse Handbook, Training Teams, Training Teamsters, and The Art of Working Horses. So it's like a trilogy. And they're a good read. I sold one to a customer and he came back about 2 years later and he bought another one. And I said, Albert, I thought you already had this. He said, I do, but that's my Bible. And he said, it's always with me. And I read it so much, the pages have all fallen out of it.
Somebody asked, Hank and Nicole asked, would you use healing pads all of the time or only if your horse has a sore?
No, we use ours all the time.
Yeah, and that's kind of the next subject, is to pad or not to pad. And to quote which prime minister was it? It was World War II. Pads if necessary, but not necessarily pads. So our horses through the winter are eating more than they're doing. So they're going to gain some weight in that. And then come springtime, when we start to use them, they lose that weight and then the collars are either too big or whatever. So we'll use it as a filler to keep that collar fitting comfortably for them.
Yeah.
Is really what it is. So do you need to use a pad? No, if your collar is fitting good, it's nice the way it is. Do we use one? We use it all the time we can because it's vinyl, it's easy to clean, keeps the sweat and hair off of the leather face of the collar. So I hope that answers the question.
Can you speak about spreaders, when and how to use them?
Yeah, we got them hanging right behind us here. And spreaders do just that. They spread your team apart. So if you're pulling like a heavy load and they're really down and grabbing, like sometimes they'll go sideways and they'll step on each other. So separating them prevents them from doing that. The further apart they are, the more cool air they have between them. Like when we put 4 wide together, they're fairly tight. And you can see that the inside horses are definitely warmer than the outside horses. They just don't get the air circulation around them, and spreading them helps them do that. Do we use spreaders? Not for anything we do. You know, not for any farm work or wagon work or anything like that. Like they have a pretty good balance in that. So.
What do you use to condition the inside of a collar?
A horse.
Just neat's foot oil.
Yeah.
Say that again, Terry?
Neat's foot oil.
Yes, that was kind of a contrite answer I gave, you know, so condition or to form it to the horse. So to form it to the horse is just work and sweat and heat.
Horse sweat.
Horse sweat, yeah. Yeah. So did you talk about what long straw is?
Yep.
You took my lines.
I thought that was my lines.
No, outside of the red.
Oh, well, you weren't here.
Fine.
What can I
Page
say?
turner?
Okay, and my page turner's not here now?
I'll take
Oh, it doesn't need to be turned yet.
Oh,
Not yet?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Okay.
So through all of, did you talk about hames and?
No, I didn't get to Hames because you got back.
All right. So hames adjust, but making sure you have the right size hame for the collar is important. And then you can get three sizes, three adjustment sizes on typical farm hames kind of thing. And they fit 90% of the draft horses that are out there.
Mhm.
Same as a half Sweeney collar. 90% of horses will work perfectly fine in that. If you have, if you're outside of that 10%, or 90%, so if you're in that 10%, I was gonna call them oddballs, and then I'm thinking, like, don't do that, you're gonna insult them.
That's politically incorrect.
But if you're outside of that 90, you may have to bend the hames to fit your horse's neck. And you're going, oh, but I need a better collar or a different collar. The collar is leather, like it's flexible. You can squish it and it'll form to the horse's neck. It's the hames that won't move. So sometimes you can get a pinch or they just need to be bent out a little bit to make them fit better. But typically it's the hames that need bent, not the collar. And out of all of this, it's most important that your horse is comfortable. If your horse is comfortable, he's going to give you a lot more energy and work and do it better than if he's got a pinch or he's uncomfortable or he's sore or he's hot. And just especially new collars and stuff, as you're breaking them in or you're putting on a different harness and a different set of collars on your horse, when you take them off, just run your hands down his shoulders where the collars are, and you'll feel like if he's got a hot spot, if he's starting to build a sore or whatever, you'll feel it. Like the temperature will be different and you'll feel it inside.
Do you have any tips on collar fit for the Clydes that have extraordinarily long and skinny necks?
Scary?
Well, half Sweeney, play with your hame adjustment, use a pad. One thing that you can get, which will help you, is the bottom hame strap is available with a clip or a post on it now.
Just to make tightening easier, right?
Yeah, otherwise the buckle will travel over and then you run out of strap before your hames are tight. So
Yeah. And making sure your collars are a snug fit, like it should be like that. No play in it. And backing up two steps on that. We were all Clydes for a while. Like that's all we had was Clydes. So we can relate to your Clyde question quite well. And it was Clydes where we actually run into sores. We were getting ready. There was a competition, 30 miles a day for 3 days.
yeah,
It's bang, 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 winner takes all. So we were driving miles, obviously 30 miles a day kind of thing, trying to get them into shape. And, we started to have collar problems and then the pads would be popping out, like, what's going on? But we were just too big and we were going the wrong way, thinking we had to go bigger.
yeah.
And really, we had to go smaller, and just keeping it nice and snug on there made all the difference in the world.
Yeah, you want to be able to get just your hand in the bottom on the flat. And it's okay if you can get your fingers in the sides, but you want to have to work to do it.
See if there's any more questions about collars. How do you know if your hames are too big or big enough?
They don't fit the trough properly. If they're too long, they'll hang down below. If you can see that, kind of like where my finger is.
I was gonna grab a set of hames. You hold that.
Okay, I can do that.
And Terry, you can, while he's doing that, can you talk about the length of lines? Is there a particular length? Is there a little?
For the driving lines, you mean?
Yes, I'm assuming Angelina, yes?
Usually for drop team, even for a light horse team, we use 20 feet. Sometimes you can get them a little longer, 21, 22.
Do you want to talk about the BRU and making them too long, or is that just making sure you know where the ends of your lines are?
Oh, yes.
I don't know that was too long.
No, that was not paying attention.
No?
Driving along on a bundle of rock. Lines are hanging down the front. I look, they're about that high off the ground. I thought, no problems. So drove the whole day. And then at the end of the day, when I'm on the way to the trailer,
Talking to a pretty girl.
yes. Yeah. I did a right-hand turn and my line had dropped through the floor and made it just long enough that the wheel ran over it and caught my thumb between the line and the rock. And of course, we did a big right-hand turn. So 8 stitches later, good thing is I kept my thumb, so. Just be careful what where the tails of your lines are.
I give you the wrong one.
Thank you.
So you want, if your hame's too big, you're gonna get that. If it's too small, it won't sit down in the trough. I don't know if you can see that or not.
Turn it around a little.
You see, you can get your finger in there. So you want it to just,
There is a part right here on the collar. There's an extra reinforcement.
yeah,
And that's where your tug is gonna be. So if you put it there, it's either gonna fit right and this one doesn't.
no,
But if we just take the hame away. I'm ruining our whole set here, but
so there's that extra piece on the collar right there. Called the draft.
and you can see how that one fits in there really nice.
Yeah,
I hope you can anyways. Like
Yeah.
it's snug in there. We can do up the bottom.
Lift up, it says, lift up.
Oh, lift up.
Yeah.
How's that?
Better, Brad? Just nod your head. Okay, yes. So one of the questions was, so we have 2 collar questions. What is the proper method to measure the collar size?
That's the best question of all, and the hardest to do.
yeah.
Say thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Bob. Let me put this over. I'll get a stick.
You're getting all the toys out.
Okay, so while he's going for that, we have a question of what age of horse should you get the horse fitted to a proper collar and harness? What age?
Both 3.
I would answer that saying, depends what you're doing. If you're starting them at 3, which typically we do, at all times, that collar needs to fit well. So you may need a series as they grow.
Okay.
So,
Collar measurement.
yeah, you want to do this? You want me to do it? What?
You got the stick.
I got the stick. So it's a measurement in inches. And you follow along. So you would lay this stick on their shoulder blade, whatever angle that is, touch the top and touch the bottom of the neck. And you could use 2 carpenter's squares or whatever for it, but it's a straight line through. It's not a measure around the neck. So it's a straight line. And sometimes some of our horses, they have extra pounds on them. So a fat horse, it's sometimes hard to feel where that shoulder bone is. And they might have a big layer of fat on it, but it has to sit on the shoulder because that's where it's going to end up.
And then when you get your collar measurement, like your hame, the rule of thumb is the hame should be 1 size larger. And the way you measure a hame is from the bottom tip here, right up to the top rung of the ladder.
Can you do the tip again?
Yeah.
Lift it up a little. There you go.
Tip
Thanks.
here, up to the top in a straight line. So if you got a 22-inch collar, then you would want 24-inch hames.
Yep.
Because by adjusting the ratchet here, it'll do 24, 23, and 22.
So Kalia says he's turning 3 this year, so it'd be safe to say next year to get him fitted for a collar.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you want him to be pulling a little bit of stuff now at 3. Like he's got the size, he'll be, you know, and the power and the willingness, so I wouldn't be afraid to start him now. And just the last piece is, so we know a hame has to be 2 sizes bigger than the collar, one size bigger than the collar.
Pad is 2.
A pad is 2 sizes bigger than the collar.
Because they measure the pads from the tip here to the tip here.
Yeah,
Down?
there you go.
How's that? So they take into account the curve of the neck. Collar size, they don't.
So,
She said he's pulling a tire so far.
oh, good deal. Nice.
So to go back to the lines, is there such a thing as too long? And do you put the tails underneath your legs or under your butt, or like what do you do with the?
I coil them up and I carry them in one hand.
Yeah, so too long. Too long is better than too short. Because you go around a corner and then you're holding on to the tail as you.
Yeah, you got like that much hanging out the bottom of your hand.
And you're worried you're gonna run out, but too long, you know, the only issue is pain in the tush, right?
Yeah.
Like you've just got all this excess.
Too long is easier to deal with.
Yeah, so if I'm just driving a fork cart and I got nothing behind kind of thing, I'll just let them drag on the ground kind of thing.
Mhm.
Is that the best idea? Probably not. You know, putting them under your butt or whatever is fine, just, you know, to avoid the Terry issues, you know, where you go all day and everything's fine, but it's just that last little bit where it, you know, through nobody's fault kind of thing.
Yeah.
It catches under a tire and snags, you know, and we've had them, you know, so we've made pretty much every mistake. There's a couple we've got left to do.
Yeah. Hopefully
but-
we won't do them though.
Yeah, but we've had them wrap around axles and yeah, you know, because we'll drive, you know, 4 or 6 up and so you have, you know, 10, 20, 30, 40 feet of line, you know, and coming around the corner, there's lots of line there. So it's tough, but I would err on the side of too long as opposed to too short.
Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions on restoring old harness or how to tell that an old harness should be replaced?
Yes, and I'm doing all the talking again. Our Amish friend who was up here, he said, you can't bring back the dead.
Yeah.
And you know, it has a life. It's an organic material, right?
Yeah.
Like wood dries and goes for it, and leather's no different.
I think the easiest way is just to bend it and you'll see it start to crack on the bend. You get that, it's wall ornament.
Yep. And the lines, you know, the driving lines,
Yeah.
like if you look on our leather harness, like there's places where the driving line itself has just stretched itself out just because it's a leather material, so it's thinner, you know, and narrower as it went along. And they were good quality lines kind of thing. So this stuff wasn't a last forever type stuff.
No.
You know, and our Biothane lines have nips and chinks in them that, you know, at some point you go, okay, now it's time to replace them. Like it's a wear point and it's not.
Well, they get caught on stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know, you gotta pay attention and check your equipment.
But no.
But-
Yeah.
Don't ever put armor all on your Biothane driving lines.
And you can also take them to, because you guys take them to the drive-through
Car
car
wash.
wash.
Yeah.
What are some techniques to get a new team to stand while harnessing? You try them?
Our horses are tied anytime we're harnessing them.
Yeah, some people will hobble them. Right?
Yep, yep. Yeah, it depends what you want to do. I think sometimes the worst is, they pick up your energy.
Mhm.
So, if you have your hames up and the harness over you and you're trying to sneak up on them, like but if you just take it and throw it on them and done over time.
Just repetition.
Yep.
Do you ever knot or tie the tails?
No, but the horses we have now are all Amish teams.
Mhm.
So they came out of Ohio and they were docked as they were colts.
Yeah.
So
So they're just talking amongst themselves. Christine says that she has a pair of single lines that she loves, but they're way too long for her cart. So she's and the ends daisy chain together to take up some of the excess.
is that Christine Beattie?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Hi, Christine. So Christine, she was working at Heritage Park.
Yeah.
And she was driving there and then she come out and took some clinics and stuff from us and
And
she's
then
running.
she went to Vancouver Island.
Sorry, Kalia asks, is there a trick to train them to lower their head for a collar?
So, yes. You just grab the pole right on top of the head and you squeeze it. And as soon as they drop their head a bit, you let go and you just keep doing that. And the collar is one piece, but to put a bridle on these guys is another. And our tallest horse, Pete, you put your hand up there and just say, put your head down, give it a squeeze, and he puts his head down and life is so much easier. So it's just to squeeze that pole, that ball right on the top of his head. You just give it a squeeze and you let go. Simple as that. Oh, we have amazing
It
stuff there.
says, I've lost your audio and video.
Oh, weird.
Can anybody else hear us?
Okay, so
Yeah, okay,
all right.
cool, all right.
So the next piece we were going to get into, if the questions go away,
Yeah, no,
or don't go away.
No more questions for now, but
So we were just going to touch on backcountry use a little bit.
Mhm.
It's all black now, so it's all me. You just have to sit there and drink whiskey.
There you go. I love it when a plan comes together.
So a little bit is, where can you go? Especially in your area, and if you put it in the chats, we're just east of Calgary. So, we're an hour's drive from mountains and an hour and a half. We couldn't drive them in our lifetime, all the places we can go with a team and a wagon.
Mhm.
We're giving it a try. So as long as we don't die in the next few years, I think we'll get closer anyways. So Terry, what was your scariest moment in the backcountry?
I would say it was the day I inadvertently drove my team into a bog. When you,
Just in your defense, the bog was on the road and it was like quicksand. So it wasn't.
and it was all grassy.
It was just, everything was fine and then it was soft. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Looking at it in retrospect, if you see a grassy area that looks too good to be true, get off your wagon and just kind of walk it first.
Have a look. Yeah.
We got them out,
Yep.
but there was a whole bunch of fevered activity for a while.
Yeah. We had a wagon full of people.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, that was their first time on a wagon and with horses, and you're in the beautiful backcountry and rivers and trees, and you have this horse squealing because he's stuck in the mud. So then they started to, some of the girls are, so we said,
Which just,
go for a walk. Just everybody go for a walk down the road. And we'll call you when we want you. So they left, and then we got the horse out, and then everything was fine again.
yeah. And they let us, we hooked them up to the back of the wagon to pull it out of the bog. And then hooked them back on the front and they were just, oh, okay, let's go.
Yeah, some of the time. And we've done others. So, you know, mine would have been when I was trying to kill Roz. We crossed a river when we shouldn't have, and it was a little bit deep. And you know, fortunately we had a good team. But as we're crossing the river and the water pushed and a horse slipped and his butt fell on the pole and snapped it. So no pole, it was just the tugs were left, you know, for guiding and stuff. And we got through to the other side, and then we had to fix a pole. So cut a tree. And so we have a list here of stuff to take with you. And Terry's was black twine.
Yeah, black twine. That's really important because if you have a harness break, you can repair it and it won't show up in the photographs.
That's important.
So we broke a pole. So we had to cut a tree, make another pole, lash it on. So, you know, ratchet straps and that, like throw them all in, like don't leave them in the truck, take them with you because you just can't, you can't have enough miles of rope and thin rope and big rope to tie it all together. Crescent wrench,
Saw,
hammer, because if everything goes bad, you just beat yourself to death. So we got across the river. I had to cut another pole, fashion it to get us back. Went up a sandbar on the river and then came back down. And just as we were cutting to the bank, we turned sideways and the water rolled the wagon over and broke my new pole, my second pole. So Roz went for a bit of a swim down the river. We got the horses out thanks to some friends in the wagon. And we made another pole and got her done. And there's a whole story where we borrowed clothes because we were soaking wet. It was a beautiful
and
June.
your clothes were wet.
Yeah, clothes were wet. A lot of them went down the river. Some of the booze went down the river. Which
And
was a real shame.
that night, it rained like hell.
So when my buggy rolled over, it broke the top and ripped the canvas and stuff. But it was supposed to be, and it was a gorgeous weekend. Blue sky. And so we're in our borrowed clothes and you crawl into it. We're laying there, there's a cloosh, you know, the thunder starts and the lightning. And it was like, no. And then you hear the first rain hitting. And then you hear it dripping on the canvas, but then the canvas dripping inside the buggy. So we were absolutely soaking wet and stark naked, had to get out and pull a canvas over top of us to keep us till morning. So it was a test for Roz, that's for sure.
So that's, Christine asks, when you head into the backcountry, deep into the backcountry, what do you take for emergency equipment and spares?
So twine, like baler twine when you're feeding your horses, because you're gonna have to take feed with you, keep it. Don't leave it behind and don't burn it. A first aid kit for your horse is super important. And whether it's a team or a saddle horse, but a lot of times you get back there and you'll get into some rugged rock country or whatever, and you'll end up with cuts and stuff, and you need something to treat that. And we've pulled shoes off, you know, like they pulled them off either in mud or in rocks or whatever, and you need to be able to put them back on. You know, back to the ratchet straps. We took apart a camp one time. It wasn't a camp, it was just a camping site in a wilderness area, and found a couple metal rods that we actually could attach.
That's that time we broke that pole on the Democrat, yeah.
You know, and lashed it back on, but it was enough to get us out. But going downhill, we had to get everybody out because that was the brakes. Are we okay? Time. A little bit, I want to get on to opportunities for people with draft horses and stuff like that.
So we have 2 more questions and then we can do that.
Okay.
Okay. Do you recommend to always use checks and blinders?
So we never use checks and we always use blinders. I would suggest.
Depends on the horse, really.
I'm doing the talking again. Yeah.
Yeah.
If your horse has been trained in that without blinders, you're perfectly fine without them. And I think if I was starting horses today, I would start them without blinders, just because when it comes off. When you're actually running some equipment like a binder and stuff, so there's big wheels and noises and stuff behind them, I think they're better with a blinder, keeps them focused forward.
Mhm.
Checks, I don't use.
And
kind of
here's
check?
one.
Like, I'm assuming they mean an overcheck or a
Yeah.
side check?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So let me just, William says, I have a pair of 3.5-year-old Canadian geldings I'm training. They've been pulling a cutter sleigh individually. Okay. Now I'm trying to start ground guiding them as a team. You put them in a neck yoke. You put a neck yoke on them while standing and tied the breeching together with a strap. The one tried to swing his butt but couldn't and freaked out. Now I'm back to leading them. What should be my next step?
Seeing whether or not they're right or left-handed, and sometimes just changing sides for the horse will make a huge difference. Like, and they'll always want to see, did you start with, blinders on or off? Maybe not having them on will let them see what's behind as you're going, but slow and certain. I think, planning it out, so that they, so you don't end up in trouble is the big piece to that, and you can call us and give you our 2 bits worth for
Do you
whatever
want-
it is.
Do you want to, anything to add, William?
Yeah, I can use bridles that don't have blinders.
If they're used to that.
They seem fine with blinders pulling the cutter.
Okay, then keep
I
doing.
may just try the neck yoke alone, and I probably need to get a helper.
Yeah. And
And does he tie them back?
Do you tie them back, William?
Like you tie their butts together, but do you tie
No,
the one
no,
horse?
I'm not now.
Good.
I made the mistake of tying the breeching together. And I don't think he would have freaked out if that hadn't had a strap on.
It might have turned inside out on him.
yeah, it's easy to be a quarterback, an armchair quarterback. Lots of pieces in there. And then knowing each individual horse, if it's one horse that's more nervous than the other one, he may be, needed to tie him back or try him on the other side, or just lead them side by side for a while until they get used to that. Start with, then just put the bridles on and lead them kind of thing and see how they react and change sides and then see how they do.
Okay, thank you.
And then
How we doing for time?
it is 6:58. So I think just the last question, or do you want to,
I think we need to
Okay.
skip on to some opportunities here.
but just let them know that
Yeah.
we'll be keeping.
So, yes, she wants to take more questions, but she wants me to hurry up and tell you to make sure you subscribe, keep sending in your questions and we'll answer them all. And we're happy. It's actually fun,
Yeah,
answering the questions kind of thing. But the opportunities thing, what you can do as teamster or with your horses and that, I think is an important piece. So we'll probably just go a few minutes late here and do it. And I think somewhere out in our audience was Brad Andrews. So if you find him, Roz. So Alberta Carriage Supply has some clinics coming up.
driving clinic, basic driving.
Yep.
And then the next step.
Yep. So, and we were asked for that one, like once you've got your team and you're driving them, hooking to equipment and how the equipment works and.
More than one or more
the
than two.
horse to equipment interface specialist.
Yes,
Course
yes.
is what that.
That's an
really is.
Amish job title.
Brad is unmuted. Brad.
Oh, so everybody knows, we have a pretty close affiliation with the Calgary Stampede. And there's, 1 million horses down there, Stampede Week. And there's an area of Stampede called Draft Horse Town. And Brad Andrews is the chair of that committee. And Brad, why don't you take the floor and tell us what you need or what you got or what's up?
Who we are and what we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm with Draft Horse Town. We're basically we're a community that was formed about 12 years ago. We kind of emerged from the heavy horse pull and the heavy horse show. And what we do is we celebrate kind of the history of draft horses and kind of how the draft horses were used for all these years to do everything from bring milk to town, to work the fields, to and anything else that we can do, pull road equipment, that type of thing. So we're located on Stampede Park for the whole 10 days in between the old barn and the new barn. And what we do is we teach and educate the public about the history of the draft horses, as well as show off some of the skills of these gentle giants that we have. So we do everything from display breeds, the various breeds at whether it be in the pens or sometimes in some of our demo arenas. We do harnessing demonstrations. We do pulling in demonstrations using everything from antique farm equipment to antique road equipment. And most importantly, we interact with the public, whether it be the teamsters and volunteers, kind of to get them excited about the history of the draft horses. So here's the sales pitch. I knew I had to come to that. What we're doing is we're actually looking for volunteers. So we're looking for volunteers for just to help out themselves, whether it be if they're interested in volunteering from a day to a couple of days to a couple of hours, to everything from stand outside a horse pen and talk to the public to explain the different breeds, to answering any kind of questions that they do, to all the way up to we're looking for teamsters and horses that are interested in coming down and helping us display their horses and possibly do some driving as well. We have a demo arena at the back of our space where we do the demonstrations, as well as we get some dirt time, and we try to, as much as possible, to get dirt time in some of the arenas so that we can demonstrate some of the equipment in the actual dirt itself. So that's my sales pitch. I will send my contact information in the chat right now. If anyone's interested in either volunteering for a shift or possibly looking at bringing some horses down or a team down, please reach out to myself and we'll put you in touch with everyone that needs to be involved. So thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thanks, Brad. Appreciate you coming on. So, Draft Horse Town is probably one of my favorites at Stampede, but they also do a heavy horse show. They have a heavy horse pull. They do downtown attractions.
Yep. Wagon rides downtown.
Yep. So, and they all need teams and teamsters and volunteers. So, if you're just kind of want to build your experience and your confidence up, and before you take your team down,
it's a good time.
Yeah. So, Terry used to describe it as
second Christmas.
His second Christmas is, favorite 10 days of the year. Okay, so I think we're over time now. So one more time, I'll remind you to go to our website and subscribe. And then all the questions, actually, this whole thing has been recorded. So if you want to hear it again or pieces of it again, it will end up on our website. And if you subscribe, you'll know when it gets there. And you get first opportunity at so much. So it just makes sense to subscribe. And we don't mail out to you. We don't sell it
We're
to
not
anybody.
like Amazon.
Yeah, and we don't, share it with anybody. So it's all yours. So thank you, everybody, for your time. And I think we'll be doing this again.
Sounds good to me.
And I did tell people that they'll have a feedback survey so that they can give us some
Perfect.
some points and some.
Deal.
Thanks, Roz.
Thank you. All right, that's it.
Are we off?
Done? Nope.
Nope.
Got any last minute? That was your last minute things?
That was it.
All right.
Anything you want to finish with?
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. We appreciate your time.
Take care.
Thank you. Take care.